We're going to go ahead and get started a little bit late here with Jim Fisher, Business Development Manager for Ziptron Staffing Solutions, Division of Goodwill Industries of West Michigan.
Good evening. A little louder, please. Good evening. Thank you. That's good. You've all got a little bit of energy, some food, some drinks. It's wonderful that you've all come out tonight. This is a very, very important topic that we're talking about. That's why you're here. And we hope at the end of this program, we'll build some great awareness around childcare, things that you, particularly as employers, can do and take back to your organizations and move forward. So first, I want to thank the United Way of the Lakeshore, Christine Robert, the longtime president and CEO that I've known and had the pleasure of working with for 20 years. With all due respect, everybody, I don't know anybody that is more passionate and more committed to childcare than Christine Robert. A round of applause, please. Christine has done a number of things in the whole childcare area over the years, which includes the Regional Childcare Coalition that Amber Rumsey chairs, through a grant. It's the Regional Childcare Planning Grant that was awarded to the United Way of the Lakeshore. It's a 5-county grant supporting Mason, Lake, Oceana, Newaygo, and Muskegon counties in the creation of a regional childcare plan that meets specific barriers identified through surveys and focus groups. Many of you have participated. Please raise your hand if you participated on the Regional Childcare Coalition. Great representation tonight. Thank you. Tonight was also supported by a grant. These funds were provided by the BUILD initiative through the Pulse Upjohn Institute. Kathy, raise your hand wherever you are. I know you're here, and we appreciate very much the funds to be able to support this event, specifically to engage employers in the whole process of childcare. So why am I standing here tonight? Really one basic reason. I'm passionate about childcare and the needs that we have for the future. I'm a native of Muskegon County. I was gone for 10 years, and I've been back for almost 50 years. I've been committed through a number of organizations in the community, a lot regarding workforce development and education. I was an employer. Our family had a business. We had 3 locations. We had 75 people. I understand well the needs of families. I've been on the Muskegon County Department of Health and Human Services Board for a dozen years. And of course, the CDC is a big part of what we do. I was just at a meeting this morning and was happy to see that we really have a record number of families at this point, far too few, I would say, that are getting the CDC stipend, and we need to help families to get more because it's a big part of helping to help families get the child care that they need. I'm a proud father and grandfather of 2 daughters and 4 granddaughters, a daughter and 2 granddaughters that live with me, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old tomorrow, who is a special needs child and absolutely doing wonderfully. I share all that with you because my daughter is fortunate to have her parents, and our 2 little girls are fortunate to have their grandparents that are part of the backbone of a family that's going to help them get the right start in their lives and already has. Far too few families have that opportunity. We were just talking at the table tonight, and Lori Johnson commented on how in Europe, and I think many of us are aware of this, and it's not just Europe, it's many parts of the globe where multi-generational families live together and take care of each other. It hasn't necessarily been the pattern in this country, although I will tell you that my understanding is that the incidence of multi-generational families has really increased dramatically since the pandemic. It's one of a number of positives that's come out of it. But childcare continues to be an issue that is just a social problem, and it's a problem for employment. We're at record employment. We have a record number of unfilled jobs in the country today. We're at almost 10 million jobs again that are unfilled. And we know that even though, and I'm happy to hear, we were very concerned that females were staying out of the workforce. I'm reading lately that we now have a record number of females in the workforce. But we still have far too few. The labor participation rate is not where it needs to be, and there are barriers to people coming into the workforce. One of the major ones is childcare. We all know that. Transportation, housing, all of these are critical barriers. I was just in Lansing on behalf of the West Michigan Works Board last week talking to 10 legislators. Almost every one of those conversations touched on childcare. Our legislators are well aware of the fact that we need to do more than what we've done, despite the political logjam that's going on. And I do hope that all of us continue to be advocates for increasing the amount of funding that we need desperately to support childcare and literacy and everything that's going to help our kids get where they need to get. Tonight's topic is really about how we as employers can get engaged in doing as much as we can possibly do. We're going to be hearing some of the solutions that are happening. I am proud to say that the employer that I work for, Goodwill Industries of West Michigan, Jeanette Hoyer, you'll hear from her earlier, has been a leader in the whole area of childcare for years. Our organization is a leader in childcare, and Jeanette will talk about the hub for TriShare that exists through Goodwill Industries. Our organization is leading the way amongst others for things that organizations can do. There are many others in the room tonight. You're all here because you care about it, because you all want to do more than perhaps you've done, and to do your part going forward. I just had a conversation earlier with a woman who 30 years ago worked for Aveda nationally before they really exploded into the company they've become. And early on, they had a house next door to their campus that was for childcare. There are many things that any of us can do, and I urge all of us to simply say to ourselves after we leave tonight, what can we do to make a difference? Because our kids and our grandkids are our future. And we owe it to them to make sure that they get the best start, 0 to 5 particularly, but even beyond that. So, with that, I want to introduce to you Amber Rumsey, who is the Regional Child Care Coordinator for the United Way of the Lakeshore, and you'll take it away from here.
Thanks, Jim. So my role is directly related to the Regional Child Care Planning Grant that Jim spoke about in his introduction. So what that means is, I spend a lot of time talking to people about what it means to be a part of a planning grant, right? So with that work, we formed the Regional Child Care Coalition. There are members on this coalition from Mason, Lake, Oceana, Newaygo, and Muskegon counties. And together we're collaborating and advocating to build a stronger childcare community that supports families, childcare professionals, and the local economy. We needed to start in a place where we had data about our 5 specific counties. So as Jim mentioned, our legislators know it's an issue. They want to address that issue, but what exactly needs to be done? Because if we don't do our homework first, we end up getting a startup that's going to fail. We end up getting something that's not going to be the answer. And tonight's about positivity, so we're not going to name these things specifically, but all 5 of our counties have examples of just that, of people who tried really hard. It just wasn't what people needed. So we did some data collection. We started with a regional survey. In all 5 counties, we had 820 families respond to that survey, 166 employers, and 190 care providers responded. And we also did focus groups in all 5 of our counties. Those included families, care providers, and employers. We learned from these folks that the problems in all 5 of our counties, some of them are similar, and some of them are really unique, right? There are some things that are true to Lake that aren't true to Muskegon. There are some things that are true to Mason that aren't true to Oceana. But there were some things that were across the board problems. So we came up with some key barriers. There were 3 key barriers that we found. One of them was access, and access means something different depending on what county you're in. So there's a lack of spots that meet family preference. That could mean affordability. They can't afford the spots that are available. Availability. I can't find a spot for my 3-month-old. Or quality. I have a grandchild or I have a child with needs that cannot be met at some of the care options that are near me. The second barrier that we found across the board was childcare staffing. There's a gap in the number of qualified childcare professionals to meet the demand that we have in all 5 of our counties. And that's directly related to that availability piece. A childcare provider can't open another room if they don't have the staff for it. And finally, this is why we're here tonight, is employer engagement. Employers have a lack of resources available to meet employee childcare needs. Now, I do want to say that on certain levels, we're already doing some of this work. It's the team lead who says to their coworker, hey, I have your area covered right now. Go pick up your sick child from school. It's the supervisor who understands that Wednesdays are early release days for school for some reason, and they're not going to schedule you for Wednesday, right? It's the boss who says, yes, please bring your child to sit in the office and wait for the school bus in the morning. We're already doing these things, but there's more that we can do. And that's why we're here tonight. And I know you're all problem solvers because you solved the first puzzle of the evening, you got here, and I know that we're gonna be great together. So I'm gonna have possible solutions we're gonna talk about next. So we have access. We talked about supporting the Great Start to Quality in their work to maintain quality. We're gonna collaborate as community to create childcare scholarships, not just for those kids that are already able to receive those funds through CDC subsidy, which is also now going to be called scholarship, but those kids that are right above that threshold, whose family still needs that help, it's just not available yet. For childcare staffing, we want to support ECE apprenticeships. Michigan Works is working really hard on getting those apprenticeships out. We want to support shared service networks for our childcare. Oh, we have Sarah Cooper coming in. Do somebody want to go find her? Sorry. And we also want to change the narrative. Hi, Sarah, sorry. We want to change the narrative. Our childcare providers have said through all of our focus groups that the thing that they want to see the most is the attitude changed about how we talk about care providers. If we want people to join an ECE apprenticeship, if we want to get people in high school and college to come and join this career, we need to tell them that it's a career worth having. And that's something that has to happen in order for the rest of this to work. And tonight, I'm really proud that we are going to share with you 3 examples of employers that have already used some of our resources in order to help their employees with childcare. We're going to learn about TriShare, a childcare partnership, and I call it lifestyle benefits. Other people call it a spending account, but I like lifestyle benefits, and I made the slides, so you're stuck with that. And we are going to go ahead and get started with a quick clip. It's only 2 minutes of Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and she's sharing what we are doing at the state level for childcare.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about an issue that I've been focused on since day one, childcare. We know that inadequate access to affordable childcare costs Michigan $3 billion annually in economic activity. We know that 55% of Michigan kids ages 3 to 4 are not in a formal learning setting, and 44% of Michiganders are living in a childcare desert. This may not be news to you. As employers, you know that many of your employees struggle to find quality, reliable care. As childcare business owners, you may be lacking the financial resources to compensate your educators equivalent to their level of skill and education. And as community leaders, we all know that if we want to grow our economy, we need to invest in childcare. And that's why my administration launched Caring for My Future, which established a goal of opening or expanding 1,000 childcare businesses by the end of 2024. I'm so proud that we got it done a full year ahead of schedule. We also expanded eligibility for childcare subsidies and implemented a new cost-sharing model called TriShare to cut monthly costs by 2/3. We significantly expanded our free pre-K program, the Great Start Readiness program, and are taking action towards our goal of pre-K for all 4-year-olds by the end of my second term. I'm grateful to you and so many other partners engaged in this effort. I know that together we can meet the needs of children, working families, childcare businesses, and employers. Hello, thank you for the opportunity.
No, you're done. Thank you. The pleasure now of
I have a loud enough voice, I hope you hear me. I'm introducing to you Jeanette Wire, CEO of Goodwill Industries in West Michigan. I'm pleased to tell you that I've had the pleasure of working with Jeanette for 4 years, and I've known her longer. She's a leader in childcare long before she came to Goodwill Industries in West Michigan, and she has taken the lead with TriShare not only in West Michigan, but in the state of Michigan. Establishing the hub in the state.
Hear that? That's great. Thank you, Jill. I have the pleasure of being able to talk to you today about TriShare, and we're really fortunate in Michigan that we have this program. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it started, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it works. And
I'm going to save my voice by talking.
Oh, maybe. Is it still on? You can still do it. Okay. How about now? No. Okay.
You're good.
So, as Jim said, United Way has been investing in childcare. I'm going to put it down because it'll come on. And I'm going to be yelling into the back of the room. That's all right. Interested in childcare forever. Christine, this has been on your agenda for probably your whole career. And she's been one of the biggest advocates in our area for increasing access to childcare. And then about 4 years ago, at the first livability lab that happened in Muskegon, and I don't know how many of you know what that's about, but it's a process that brings together a whole bunch of community members to make commitments to take action in 100 days to make changes. And it's a remarkably powerful program. And so at the first livability lab about 4 years ago, childcare rose to the top as one of the major issues that we could address as a community that would
make things better. And as a result, Kathy Sales, this is how I remember it. This is a history lesson as I remember it. Kathy Sales pulled together a group. We called ourselves the Childcare Action Team. And we came together to figure out, like, okay, how are we going to make a difference in this space? The team included people like Representative Van Workum and his then aide, Marcus Keach. And they were discovering at that same time sort of the cost and the reality that not having access to childcare, that barrier creates for employers. So they were busy discovering that. And frankly, we were doing the same thing at Goodwill, because our mission really is to change lives through the power of work. And our vision is that everyone has a pathway to meaningful and sustaining work. And we can't realize that vision without removing barriers. And childcare is one of the biggest ones, right? And so we were taking a look at that too. And so we, the Representative Van Workum put together this pilot project around TriShare. It was modeled after Access Health. Some of you may be familiar with that too. That's another homegrown program out of Muskegon for healthcare that allows the employer to pay a third of the cost, the employee to pay a third of the cost, and the state essentially. And so that's what the TriShare model was. Van Workum took it to the legislature. They funded the pilot project. It was bipartisan. Like, just everybody just wait. You're like, yeah. I mean, how often does that happen right now? So it's very well supported. And there were 3 pilot opportunities across the state of Michigan. The Childcare Action Team decided that perhaps Goodwill was the best one to sign up to apply to be that hub, in part because of our relationship with employers and the workforce, and also because we could manage the cash flow in a way that allowed us to pay childcare providers on a weekly basis reliably. And so that's what we did. We applied for it in 2021, received the funds, hired Katrina Rule, who's back there as our hub manager. And since then, it's moved out of the pilot phase, and it is part of the state budget. It has also, there are now 12 hubs. So it moved from the 3 original hubs. We now have 12 across the state. It was assigned originally to the Women's Commission at the state of Michigan, and now it's been moved to the new department, MyLeap. I had to write this down. Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential. Okay, that's what MyLeap stands for. And so TriShare now sits with that new department. We've, over the last couple of years, standardized and we've created standardization of what hubs need to do. We have a strategic plan for moving forward. And an administrative partner has been chosen to manage the financial side of things across the entire state. And that transition is happening over the next year. So right now we have 62 kids in care. And over the last couple of years, we've served over 130. We have 77 childcare providers signed up to provide care across our region. And we have 32 employers who have already signed up and who are participating. And many of you are in this room. And in fact, we couldn't have done that work. I also want to give a shout out to our employer committee. If you're on that committee, raise your hand. There are a number of you who've met with us from the very beginning to figure out how we can bring employers on board, because this is a whole new deal, right? For employers to be engaged in helping their employees access good care. And so the primary tenets of TriShare have been just 3. Number 1, families get to choose. So families have always been able to choose their childcare, what fits best for them. The second one is that we were going to make it incredibly easy for childcare providers to participate. We needed this to be something that actually helped them maintain and grow their businesses. And third, that the only requirement for those childcare providers is that they be licensed. And so those are the basic tenets that we've been working from. We've obviously kept it easy for employers as well. If you know that and you've worked with Katrina, you know that when an employer comes on and the only requirement is that the employer is in Michigan and has at least one of their locations in one of the counties that's covered by a hub, that Katrina works with HR departments to really make this easy for employees to sign up. We want to make sure that this is not, our HR departments are beleaguered. Like they had a lot of work before the pandemic, and I don't know, after that, everything seemed to, like the load got heavier, and we certainly don't want to add to that. And so Katrina does that back up marvelously to determine employee eligibility. Employees only need to be it's a household income requirement of 200 to 325% of the federal poverty level. So this comes in after you're no longer eligible for that state subsidy and takes care of lots of our families who are working but still have difficulty meeting that the cost of childcare. And the evaluation takes into account family size. And so that really, there's a great opportunity, I think, for many of our families. So the benefits to employers are many, right? It can help with absenteeism because a lot of times that's the reason that an employee can't come to work is because they've got a child who's sick or doesn't have care. It removes a barrier, right, for your employees, okay, that employees need. And it also improves recruitment and retention. Like this is an opportunity to provide a benefit that not a lot of other employers have. And in fact, we've had employees who have chosen where to go for work because of their ability to access TriShare. And frankly, also quality childcare. It's not just an investment in the employees you have now, but quality childcare is one of the best ways that we can raise up a really solid workforce for the future. So as employers, we absolutely need that. And you as employers have incredible flexibility, right? You have the ability to decide how many childcare slots you're going to make available. You have the opportunity to decide what your maximum investment is in this effort. And you have the opportunity to set the internal parameters for eligibility for your employees. So there's lots more information that Katrina will send you if you contact her. And there's barely, I feel like it's barely a week that goes by that we're not getting contacted right now by other states looking to do what we're doing and by other goodwills. We're like, well, what's the thing that you guys are doing in Michigan? And by other, just all kinds of entities that are interested across the country, actually. So we've got a really unique thing here going in Michigan. One of our great employers has been Health West. They've been really engaged and getting on board. And I'd like to bring Lori Johnson up. She's one of their HR representatives, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what it's been like from the employer perspective. And so welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Jeanette. Appreciate it. So I have a bit of a show over here, so I'm going to stand off to the side. Oh boy, I have to press things and talk. This is trouble. This is big trouble. Okay, so I'm honored to be here because Health West has been participating in TriShare since early 2022. But I need you to know that this is a team effort. I guess I'm just the mouth here tonight because there are many people that make this happen for Health West, including Katrina. I can't wait to meet you in person, Katrina. I didn't get to see you when I came in. But before we get started on that, what I want to tell you about is Health West, because you are community partners. And whether we're here for childcare or we're here to talk about our entire community, I want you to know what we do and what we've been doing since 2018. We have 400 plus staff. We are the County of Muskegon's largest department. So we are government that implemented this program. And we are large government that implemented this program. And we're currently hiring, so come see me. We occupy 9 buildings, 5 school districts, and we're in 3 police departments with our police clinicians. We're in Muskegon Heights, the city of Muskegon, and Norton Shores. In 2018, we became a certified community behavioral health center. The governor decided that it was wise to certify community mental health because too many people were going to the ER for their mental health and they weren't getting services. So they gave us a lot of funding. And guess what we did with that? We hired a lot of people and we opened a bunch of programs. We have over 40 programs right now. We serve youth, infants still in the womb, for infant mental health, a state certified program, to no age limit. We serve those with mental illness, learning disabilities, autism. We're in the corrections department. And we have an integrated health clinic on site. We were the first community mental health in the nation to get a dental clinic on site. So we have a Trinity Health pharmacy on site as well. So we are a one-stop shop for mental health, and we're proud of it. So in 2021, our CFO, Brandy Carlson, heard about TriShare, and she took a look at how it could benefit our own staff. In 2022, February of 2022, the board motion passed for us to implement 10 opportunities for our staff. And we weren't sure how we were going to do that exactly because it's hard to determine criteria. Honestly, you can't determine family income just looking at the income of your staff. So what we decided to do is say, if you qualify, it's a first come, first serve. And again, Jeanette talked about choices, so you have choices. For us, it was first come, first serve, and we would only cover the cost of one child, no matter how many children you had. We felt that was fair for all of our staff. And it worked pretty well. In fact, it worked so well, we started out with 10, and the next year we increased to 15. That quickly filled. So in 2024, this year we increased to 20. We currently have 17 staff since the beginning of the year that are participating. So we do have 3 opportunities. And we truly believe that caring for our community starts with caring for your own staff. You treat them well, they treat the community well. So, we took a survey of our 17 participants. 11 responded. It was anonymous. We felt like that was the best way to handle this. And we asked them a bunch of questions. One of them was asking them if TriShare had any impact, good or bad, on their family. And some of those answers were staggering. They were all positive, by the way. Every single person that had something to say said something positive about it. One of those questions about remaining at Health West, did TriShare have any impact at all on you remaining with Health West? And 4 of the 11 indicated it's one of the reasons they're still here. They probably would have left. So when we look at that from an HR standpoint, that's 36% of those that responded felt that TriShare was worth staying at Health West. So here's what we did. Where are my data people? Where are all the people that want to see the data? Okay, here you go. I'm going to get to the heartwarming people later, but right now we're looking at retention. So here's what we did. Because income is going to vary and staff's family size is going to vary, we took the 17 participants and we divided their total income. And we found that the average salary annually was $54,247. Then we took our contribution, our 1/3 contribution, and divided that. And so we got $36.80. So out of the 4 people that were going to leave us, those are the stats. So here's what we're looking at. Who knows that the cost of turnover is the annual salary for the person that's leaving? If we take that annual salary and we multiply it by 4, and then we look at the cost of TriShare for those same 4 people, we actually saved over $200,000 for them not leaving us. That impact alone in an HR department tells you the data behind that move. So these are some of the words that our staff had to say that are participating in TriShare and what it means to them. So these first couple of slides, as you can see, indicate that this has allowed our staff less concern when they go to work. This has allowed our staff not only the financial support, but the ability to stay focused at work, the ability to show up to work repeatedly. And just think about the productivity that you can get out of someone when they're not worried about their child care. One of the other areas is that TriShare helped people financially. In fact, it changed behaviors, and we are behavioral health, by the way. So it changed the behaviors of their children. It increased their ability to socialize. It basically, those families found growth and happiness just because of TriShare. So thank you to Governor Whitmer, right, and her focus on childcare. Thank you to United Way and your focus on this area and making sure that childcare is at the forefront. Thank you to Jeanette Hoyer, and congratulations on that. You deserve that Sustainability National Award for sure. And Miss Katrina, I call her the golden rule over there because she treats everyone with a heart of gold. She's not only effective and efficient and a champion of TriShare, but if there's someone who doesn't qualify, Miss Katrina comes back and she's like, what about this? What about this subsidy? Could you do this? And we actually had someone who didn't qualify recently, and she was really bummed. And she is a brand new employee, and she's a struggling single mom, and she didn't qualify, but guess what she did qualify for? Full coverage. And Katrina told her that. And she is so grateful for that. So I really appreciate that. I also want to thank our Health West team. We have a payroll guru, Gordon, that makes sure that every one of our staff understand how TriShare works. All of the funding from that 1/3 from the staff and Health West 1/3 come out of their payroll check. They never have to worry about paying that licensed daycare. And our Muskegon County payroll plays a big role in that as well because Gordon communicates that to them. So we really appreciate them. Our CEO is a great leader. He really cares about our staff and continues to support TriShare. And of course, I mentioned Brandy Carlson, our CFO, that started everything and continues to support us. So the last thing I want to mention is this. In HR, especially at Health West, we often say that we are not directly serving our community. But doggone it, we find every program in every available way that we can to support those that do. And TriShare is just one of those really great ways that we can do that. So thank you. Thank you so much. I am one of those data people, so I loved that. It just really goes to show how it really is good for business to support our people, right? So next up, we're going to start talking about a childcare partnership. We have with us Mark Krause on behalf of the Hesperia Community Schools School Board.
Oh, thank you, Amber. Again, my name is Mark Krause, and I am a trustee on the Hesperia Community Schools Board of Education. And taking a little bit of a different approach to some of the other things that you've heard tonight. Hello there. How are you? I recognize you. Nope, in the green, in the blue. You're right. Nope, right here. I also work at True North Community Services. Is that any? No, I'm out of my mind. So never mind. Again, to take a little bit of a different approach than maybe what you're hearing tonight, but I'm hoping you can draw some parallels. When the school district started to look at the childcare situation in Hesperia, we did not look at it from an employer perspective or from an employee benefit perspective. We looked at it from a community asset and a parent benefit and a family benefit, not from the employer side. This is going back a handful of years, and obviously the daycare issue and the shortage. We were becoming more and more aware of that in our small community. And so a few members of the Board of Education, one who is also with me tonight or in the building tonight, Julie, we really started researching the issue, looking at the current status in our community, what maybe some of the possible solutions might be. So some of our findings included that in 2018, outside of our local out-of-school time program and the Great Start Readiness program, we had a combined total of 18 licensed slots for daycare in Hesperia. That was 3 providers who were providing, their facility was in their home. One of those providers really catered to teachers, and so they didn't operate at full capacity in the summer. So come summer, we were at 12 maybe licensed daycare slots in our community. So obviously that was not enough to meet the demand in our community and the needs. So many families we know were choosing to take their children to neighboring communities for care if there were slots available. And then some were choosing to stay home, especially with infants and toddlers. Some of these same issues that our employers are facing as well. So one of the possible solutions that we identified and the district supported was using the district's vacant community and adult education building. So one great thing about Hesperia is our campus. All of our pre-K through 12 classrooms the buildings are connected. You can literally walk from one end of the building to the other and visit all grades. And all of our daily facilities are all on the same campus. So on that campus is the community ed building, which sat vacant for several years, and it became the storehouse for extra desks and outdated curriculum and a whole bunch of overhead projector transparency projectors. Yeah, probably more than I'd like to admit were in that room or in that building. But the building also had 8 to 10 classrooms, restrooms, a kitchenette, and at one time had met the requirements for daycare licensing just because of the use of the facility. So there was potential there. So in the 2018-19 school year, the Board of Education, because, we're a school district, we know how to care for children, but we really don't know anything about daycare. So we essentially released a request for proposal. We asked one of the few caveats we had was we were looking for existing daycare providers to submit requests submit proposals to us on how they would best use our facility, how they would operate, and what we might need to do to help this be successful. Again, with the existing daycare, we thought it was a lower risk for the district, but also it was less barriers for the provider to come in and start hit the ground running. So we received several submissions and ultimately awarded a lease to a daycare facility that had a long history operating in the Newaygo area. And that initial lease was structured on a sliding scale. We gave them full access to the building, which we knew they didn't need, at least right away. So rather than encumber them with a large lease when they might only need 1 or 2 rooms, we had a sliding scale that when they hit X amount of students, this was the rate. Once they hit above that, they paid a different rate. And that turned out to be really successful. Enrollment growth was really slow in the beginning, mostly because of staffing issues. But once they opened in the late summer, just before the school year started in 2019. And as things started, they had some successes, got some staffing things figured out, enrollment started to grow. And the facility in the district operated under that sliding scale lease throughout the pandemic, which we all knew, the roller coaster of closings and work from home orders and business closures and what that might do to a daycare facility. The school district was really flexible on how that operated because we wanted it to be successful. And it was a vacant building, we were putting it to good use. So, but again, once that external environment settled back down, into our new normal, the daycare operations really stabilized and then began to grow again. In 2023, the initial leaseholder retired and sold all of their operations to a larger provider. We're currently renegotiating the lease, so I can't get into specifics on that, but the district is really committed to making it successful for the district and for the provider as well. So some successes from the partnership. As I mentioned, one of the great things about Hesperia is our campus. Because that facility is on the campus, it's within walking distance from our elementary school. Parents can drop off their kids at the daycare before school starts. Daycare staff walk a group of kids down to the elementary building when school opens, drops them off. At the end of the day, they make the return trip back to the daycare so parents can then pick up after work. It's really been a great thing. We also gave new life to a long vacant building. That's one of the very first things that you see when you come onto the campus in Hesperia. We helped develop a community asset for families looking to move into the district. We increased employment opportunities and options for local residents and parents. And ultimately, the end goal, we increased access to daycare facilities for our families. From a licensed capacity of 18, we currently sit at a capacity of 72 in Hesperia, and with improvements and other improvements and upgrades to our building, that could go up to over 100 licensed capacity for kids in our district. So in 5 or 6 years, going from 18 up to potentially over 100 has been huge for our families. And from the employer perspective, and from the community perspective, in order to meet the still growing needs for safe, affordable daycare in our communities, infrastructure is going to be key. So it's going to take creative thinking and public, private partnerships to really make these things happen. So I would say from the employer perspective, keep an open mind and really look at those assets that are in the community that might be reduce some barriers for that investment to happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. It is really important to remember that even if you don't have the capacity within your own company to do a childcare, that there are those who do have that expertise and they are more than willing to partner. Next, what we have on your agenda, it is going to be a video from Andy Richards, who's the COO of Duncan Aviation, and he's going to speak to you about lifestyle benefits.
We are always looking to create more of a family culture and a family atmosphere with our team members, which means not only taking great care of them and showing that we value them in our workplace, but also understand that they're a whole person who has a life outside of work. Outside of work, we know that there are stressors for our team members, and understanding what those stressors are allows us to begin to help them address those stressors, because we know when someone is stressed outside of work, it's hard for them to engage fully. And if they can't engage fully, then they're not contributing to the company at 100%. One of those stressors is the childcare challenge that we have in our local community, the lack of affordable, quality childcare. If our team members are having to make do because they can't find available childcare, they're making do with maybe relatives taking care of their children, or friends who are taking care of their children, or they're working a split shift with their spouse or partner to address childcare themselves. And if somebody gets sick who's taking care of the child or has another obligation and they can't provide childcare that day, then that puts our team members at risk of missing work. And if they miss work, not only are they out the paycheck or the hours, but the company is also out that productivity. There's a loss of productivity as a result. Coming out of the pandemic, and as part of the survey of what our team members needed, we learned that they needed some flexibility and some additional benefits. So we came up with what we call our Team Member Choice Program. And so these are additional dollars that we're giving to our team members that they can allocate as they see fit, based on what their priorities are as a team member. So they have the ability to designate those dollars to either 401k, or to more paid time off, or HSA, or dependent care. Since we've had this program in place for the past 9 months, many of our team members have taken advantage of the dependent care option within this flexible benefits program. We've been meeting with a couple local childcare providers and finding out what their challenges are as providers. And what we've discovered is that they don't have enough caregivers. they can't find enough team members to staff their facilities. And so while they may have more capacity as far as their space is concerned, they need more employees to take care of the kids. As a result of the lack of employees, they have increased their wait times. Some families are having to wait 12 to 18 months to get a child into a child care center in our area. And so what that means is they have to be aware of the situation before they even think about having a child. They have to plan that far ahead now. So what can we do as a company to partner with these caregivers to help make sure that our team members can find a place on those wait lists to try and shorten that duration? As part of our partnership with Pulse and the Upjohn Institute, we have done some advocacy. We have signed on to a letter that has been sent to local and state government officials to let them know that we need more action and we need more resources devoted to solving this childcare crisis in our area. More companies like Duncan Aviation need to get involved in this arena if we're going to solve the problem and get the proper attention from local resources that are already available and just need to be leveraged. We know that there are stressors on our team members outside of work, and childcare is one of the biggest stressors there are. If we can solve this issue, we can ensure that our team members are more fully engaged at work and therefore more productive, and it's a win-win for both the team member and the company involved.
Before we move on, does anybody have any questions for the folks who presented tonight? Now, we do not obviously have access to Andy Richards, but we can certainly take questions and follow up if needed. Any questions for Mark or for Lori? Yes, one moment. Sorry, I'm supposed to give you the mic. No. Okay.
Hi, my name is Jamie, and I'm a local child care provider, preschool in Muskegon County. And I have a question. I probably should know the answers to this already, but as a business owner and a child care provider, can I offer this to my employees? Yes. Okay. Simple answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Katrina? Jamie, is it? We have providers. I'm talking to you. Okay. Oh, we do have providers that play both sides. They're a provider and a business for us. At first, when we first started TriShare, we didn't have it that way until a provider said, hey, I'm a business too. And so we started, there you go over there, raise your hand, Aaron. Yeah, so you can talk to Aaron. We have more providers that play both sides. So you're welcome to sign up. Thank you, Katrina. Any other questions or comments? Yes. You have one?
And I had to circle his name. So Mark Krause, you gave a great testimony on how education is kind of addressing childcare needs, especially capacity. Have you talked with other superintendents or local, educators on how they can increase capacity, knowing that our enrollment is declining, we're closing schools? How can that be a potential?
I have not.
Kudos to you for doing
I'm curious to see how. I'm curious to see how the governor's initiative on more universal preschool and how that might affect the infrastructure of facilities. In Hesperia, we are Newaygo County NC, our RESA provides the Great Start program for Hesperia, and that's housed inside of our elementary school. If there were more, if the funding for more students to be able to take advantage of that increases, we won't be able to house them within our building. So, being creative with facilities and capacity on a community level, not just as a school district or an employer, but really looking at those things. Because if the preschool capacity were to double in my community, I don't know where those kids would go. I really don't. It certainly wouldn't be on our campus or be in a more ideal situation. It'd have to be somewhere else. I would think so. Really, I think a lot of schools are looking at that coming down the road as to if this does happen, on what timeline and what does that mean for my local district.
Do you know any other principal or schooling?
I do not. We were kind of lucky that we had the vacant facility and it's on our campus. And the building is maybe a little bigger than this room with the 8 classrooms, or it's a little bit bigger, but we kind of lucked out because it was a relatively small building. It doesn't have a lot of overhead expense to kind of reopen that building. Certainly there's vacant schools around, but to open up a portion or a wing might be cost prohibitive for some businesses and districts to go into that partnership.
Question. Are you familiar with the town of Newport?
Yes. Yeah.
That started just like this. People had a striker or upjohn or losing all their families. And were being part of it in Indianapolis, Illinois. The superintendent of schools got together with the upjohn institute and said, how do we keep them? How do we do it? And he said, let's educate the children. So Eli Lilly offered $40,000 worth of private leave. And they said, why don't you stay at home and pay for school for every one of your children to go to college? Free. And it turned the entire always upside down. Because South how coming down the blue, people around towns who were buying and didn't have nothing, that all disappeared. And then it came along and they said, people housing, down the street became a hospital, big market. And to this day, it's one of the few cities that had
It's about retention.
Fabulous, thank you. Any other questions? We will have to push till after because we are running a little bit behind. But speaking of the Upjohn Institute, we also have here tonight Kathy Zunda-Wilson, who is going to talk us through the Pulse Employer Roadmap. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm going to chase you down.
Thank you. What an inspiring evening so far. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Amber, for pronouncing my name correctly. People typically get that wrong. So I'm going to start with a quick question. How many folks in the room are parents? Doesn't matter how old your kids are, right? Okay, so we have a good number of us. How many of those who have parented or are not parented but experience some challenges with childcare? Okay, good portion. I know I did. Okay. How many of you know somebody or love somebody who struggled with childcare? Right? So this is not a them problem. This is an us problem, and it's a we problem for us to solve. So all of us, it's easy when our children get older to forget the sting of it. It's kind of like childbirth. If you remembered how painful it was, you probably wouldn't have more than one kid. But you forget about it and you don't advocate as hard as the kids get older. So it's this invisible foundation of our economy is childcare. It allows people to work, but it also develops our children, right? So we're really working hard to change our language around how we even describe childcare, and that it's early learning and care. Because children begin learning at birth. Some would argue before then, right? Like they are taking in information. The biggest growth we see in our brains is those first 5 years. So if we can take care of them, how much better are we as a society? Not just for the benefit of our employees, that's critically important, but overall for our communities as well. So it's important for us to get this right. This is a solvable thing, And one of the things that, so we come from the Upjohn Institute, so we just heard them mention. Thanks for giving a shout out to Upjohn. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that that their work is being utilized to help other people be inspired by what's possible in the southwest corner of Michigan. But we learned early on when we started doing this work around early childhood system building and understanding the barriers that families are facing and providers are facing, that employers wanted to play a role, but they weren't always sure what role that should be, right? TriShare is a great innovation. It was definitely a foot in the door. Gave people a taste of, oh, there is something I can do. You have a formula for me, you have the infrastructure for it, so all I have to do is participate. I'm oversimplifying it, I know it's a lot more complicated than that, but it was a way for us to demonstrate a way for employers to really get actively involved in supporting their employees around childcare specifically. But we know that it's not enough. There are a lot of people that don't qualify for that, right? There are a lot of folks that are outside of that really struggle. And so we have to make sure that we have the tools that we can provide you, because there is a recent report that came out from a group called the Fifth Trimester, which is a really interesting name, right? It's a national group that did a survey of employees that found that for every dollar an employer invests in their employee with children, it can return up to $18 to them. $18, right? That's in retention, that's in productivity. There are ways for us to actually identify what that ROI is based on the role somebody plays. We did a lot of work with CalSec down in Kalamazoo. Does anybody know who CalSec is? Have you heard of them? They're a spice company, so they're international. They have a campus, their main campus is a family-owned business. Main campus is in Kalamazoo. They opened their own child care center on site called the Farmhouse. And they believe they're not in the business of early learning and care or child care at all. They're in the business of building future scientists because that's what they need. So they have play-based outdoor care that is phenomenal, right? It is unbelievable. Now that is the Taj Mahal. That is the actual absolute best you could do. They will also tell you it was a lot of work. It took them a lot of years, and they have to subsidize it heavily. It's a choice they make because it's a value of theirs. And we had employers who came to us in the Battle Creek, Kalamazoo area who said, I think what we need is we have to open our own child care center. It seems like the only way to solve this, because they really didn't understand the challenges in child care at all. They didn't understand the business model, which is flawed, and not because of the people doing the work, but because it is just 1% to 2% profit margins are not, I don't know anybody who'd go into that business. You go into it because you actually care about children, right? You don't go into it because you're going to make money. So we had to help them understand that. We had to help them understand also that we have a child care labor crisis. I mean, that's national. It's not just in our region, but we had to help them understand that just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. You won't necessarily have the employees you need to actually do the work. And we also had to tell them that what happens is it also it has the potential of taking away family choice. And I heard that earlier. You want families to be able to choose where their children go. That's critically important. So after, much working around what are the different things available for employers to use, you should have in front of you a booklet that you got at the door. Yep, people are looking through it right now. Would you hold that up for me so folks can see it? Thank you. So out of that, the Pulse Roadmap was born, and it was inspired by work that the U.S. Chamber Foundation had done. We learned about their roadmap, and it was a PDF. It was a kind of a one-dimensional document that we said, this is great. This is incredible work, but we think we could do more. We think we could go a lot deeper with each of these tools. We asked permission to use it, and they said, go for it. This would be great. So we got to work with a web designer. We looked at what the different case studies were that were out there. What are the different options? And we developed this tool and used it, piloted it with a lot of our employers in the Kalamazoo Battle Creek region who helped us walk through the implementation of them, right? So what you do when you use this toolkit, if you are an employer in the room, how many of you are employers in the room? All right, we have a few. And most, right, even sometimes we don't consider ourselves this. This is funny because in our region we have these conversations. We've been doing a lot of work with our city government, and Battle Creek alone has over 600 employees. They are an employee as well as a municipality, right? So thinking differently about your role in community, and that you actually have a lot of folks that depend on you that you could support. So we wanted to start with a tool that would allow folks to understand not only the impact of what they would do, because it's a quick question you get, right? Or an early question you get is like, well, if I do this, so what? But also like, how hard is it? How complex is it? And how much energy, how much resources do I have to put towards doing it? So we created the first page with really about answering those questions. So if we start on the ones that we consider quick wins, we have working family support. This is some low-hanging fruit. You have employees, many of them may have childcare needs. Can you at least point them in the direction of where they could find care? For those of you, how many of you have Employer Resource Network success coaches in your places? So we have a few. Those folks are critical to this kind of support, right? They are on the ground talking to employees every day, and they know what the needs are. So when they can help support folks to get to where they need to go, that could be a really helpful thing. Even having your HR staff know what's available and having things on your website are also important. So how familiar are you with what's going on in your community so you can connect families to that care? Flexible scheduling is something that we hear a lot, and it came up in this 5th trimester report as well, that when people have the flexibility, and COVID taught us this a lot, right? If people have flexibility, they are more productive, and it also gives them the chance to think differently about how they find care. So I'll give you a really quick example. In Battle Creek, we have a small manufacturing firm. The owner operates this business. He's got maybe 70 employees, and he was losing folks. And when he started doing exit interviews and finding out what was going on, the number one reason was because it was mostly single mothers that he had employed, and they were leaving because the hours did not match the hours of school or the care they could find. It was mostly school-age children for this man in particular. So he said, well, I could keep losing people and replacing them, or I could do something about this. He changed his hours so they matched school hours. And he didn't raise pay, didn't do anything else, and his retention has skyrocketed. So he listened, he looked at what he had available. Now, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can still produce the things they need to produce in that amount of time, but they found that it actually worked for them. So getting really knowledgeable about what is it that my employees are experiencing. Before we have anybody go through the roadmap and think about what it is they could do, we ask them first to survey their employees, because a lot of folks assume they know, and they find out through surveys that there's a lot that they really, one of our CEOs said to us, and it actually was Andy, who you just heard from. He said, well, I assume if they're at work, they figured it out. I just thought it was like an attraction thing, like people don't come to work for us because they can't find care. And so when he found out that, was it like almost 60% of his staff said, my care is not ideal. I mean, we're making it work. It's like a patchwork. We're putting it together. I've got a cousin watching him on Tuesdays, and sometimes my mom takes Fridays off, and they're figuring it out, but it's not ideal. It's not ideal for the child. It's not ideal for the employer or employee. So that knowledge that the survey can provide you will give you deep insight into what the needs are. I'm going to go to the next one, which is backup care, just give you a little bit more information about it. This, one of our employers discovered that when they started talking to families, the challenge with them is, well, I've got childcare, but when they close for any reason, I can't make it to work. I don't have any backup care. I don't live near family. I don't have anybody who can watch them. And so they actually developed a secondary call-in system. If you call in, and this is a large international manufacturer who happens to also have a base in Battle Creek. If you call in sick or you can't come in that day, they ask you if it's childcare related, and they send you to another person who's actually documenting specifically what your issues are, so that they're getting data to find out if they're going to partner with a childcare business owner who could do backup care. They'll know exactly what the needs are, what shifts, what age children, what specifically, are they sick, or is it the childcare provider that's not available? So they're getting as much detailed information as they can, because backup care is where they think they need to invest. And they want to provide that support to the entire community, not just their employees. Vouchers and subsidies, for me, is the golden ticket. If you can provide resources to your employees and let them choose where their care comes from, they are best positioned.
That's why the lifestyle benefits that Andy talked about have been so successful. Now, what surprised him was that more people took advantage of PTO than he expected, additional paid time off. And when he asked some of the families with young children why, their response was, well, it gives me more time with my kids if they are sick or if there's something else going on. So that was an added benefit that he found out. One of the other things we're having all of our employers that we're working with do, because it's coming up time and time again, is to really evaluate their leave policies. So if I am a new mother and I'm expected back after 4 or 6 weeks, so infant care, for those of you who don't know, infant care is the most expensive care to find, and it's most expensive and it's the hardest to find because the ratios have to be so small. Obviously, you don't want somebody watching 18 infants, right? They need a lot of care, a lot of hands-on care. And so extended leave does multiple things. It's better for the baby, it's better for the parents, and it's better for the employer because it is an attraction and retention tool that is really beneficial. So we've got our CEOs really reevaluating their leave policies to see if they match what the needs are. On-site care, I told you about CalSec. It is the Taj Mahal of things. If you can pull it off, more power to you, but it is a really heavy lift. And that's not all. That's what you could do for your employees. But we really encourage everyone to think about what role you play as advocates. Each one of you sit at tables that those of us who've been working tirelessly in the childcare space don't sit at. Figure out what it is you could say to advocate on behalf of us. We have some talking points and some things that you can, on the roadmap, that you can utilize, and we'll be adding to those because we want to make sure that you are also talking to the folks that you know who have power and influence so that we can build the public and political will it's going to take to create the public and private partnerships necessary to address this crisis, because we are not going to innovate our ways out of this. That's helpful, but we have to have greater investment. The majority of our workforce work for poverty wages, and it's sad. I mean, they're doing really incredibly important work, and we have to change that because it shouldn't be a volunteer job. It should be something that you can actually survive on, and it's going to require additional investment. And then building community capacity. One of our employers in Battle Creek is actually guaranteeing slots at a particular center, and they've taken what, Maria, 18 months to 2 years to select? I mean, they did their due diligence. They went into centers and they're like, this one doesn't feel quite right. This one kind of aligns with our values, but they don't have any capacity. And they finally landed with a childcare business owner that they're going to develop a formal relationship with. And what did she say to us last week? She goes, I feel like I'm getting real money now. It benefits her because he's guaranteeing slots, and he wants them for his team members who are going to have children and don't want to be on a wait list for 18 months so that they can come back to work a little bit sooner, right? So this is a way that we can start supporting each other and thinking really differently about it. Now, I know Amber's got some questions for you to have a table conversation around some of what you just heard. I will roam around, so will Maria. Maria Ortiz-Borden, raise your hand. She's my other half, my work wife. And we will answer any questions that you have if you've got them of us. But Amber, do you have the questions for them? Yeah. And thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Kathy. As Kathy was speaking at the beginning, I did pass out a worksheet, the former teacher here, so I couldn't help myself. But on that worksheet, there are 2 questions. One, I'm going to ask that, and I know that we're running over time, so if you do have to leave, I understand. Which strategies from the Pulse Employer Roadmap are you most interested in learning more about? And 2, what kind of support would you need to consider piloting one of these strategies? So those worksheets are at your table. If you could quickly talk, maybe we'll do 5 minutes. If the conversation's going pretty heavy, we'll continue it, but just kind of talk about it. Anybody who still would like to talk about this is welcome to stay after, but we do want to end on time for folks who have other stuff going on tonight. I am going to pass it on to Jim in just a moment to do our final call to action. But before you leave, please help yourself to a flavors of our region bag in the back. There's some goodies. All of the places that are in the bag are local Businesses, we have McDonald's candies in there from Muskegon. We have La Fiesta chips, which they donated to us, which was very kind. And we also have some Petwater Gourmet popcorn. So please grab a bag on your way out. And here is Jim with our closing.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We all appreciate what's most important, which is your presence tonight, because it says that you are committed on behalf of your organization to help childcare move forward with your organization and with your employees, whoever you are, wherever you are in the 5-county region. We really hope that listening tonight, you've gotten some ideas. You're certainly aware of what the crisis is, and it is a crisis. It's been referred to, and it's critical that we all are on the front line of doing whatever we can do. Amber will be sending a follow-up and a survey out to everybody. I want to highlight one thing that will be in the questionnaire that you'll get. The Regional Child Care Coalition is prepared to convene one or more groups of organizations and employers that are willing to work together, somewhat similar to an employee resource network, to talk further about how collectively that group can work together and talk about solutions to childcare. I hope that you will respond to that survey if you're so interested and participate. However many we have, we're going to look for an outside resource to work with us over the course of the next few months and hopefully move forward with that group. I've personally worked with groups like this in the past. I look forward to working with any of you that want to participate, because collectively, I know that we'll all make a difference. My personal appreciation to everybody. Thank you to the United Way of the Lakeshore. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Jeanette, Katrina, and everybody else that's participated. Anybody's name I've left out, I apologize. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you again. Feel free to stick around and continue those conversations at your convenience. And make sure you grab a bag of goodies on your way out. Thank you for coming.